I mean, shooting on an independent budget nowadays, how close did you have to stay to the page? I mean, how much is the film that we saw on screen, how much does that reflect what the original script you gave everyone?
Yeah, I think fairly close. Jeff and Maggie would improvise a bit, and of course they're so good at it, and of course Bobby as well, Mr. Duvall, that as an actor, I like to see actors who can improvise, and clearly these three are good at doing that and making what I had as a blueprint better. So when they did it, typically what you see is in the film.
Yeah, some guys, some directors don't let you change to out of air. It really is. But this guy can do anything almost, right? Within the form.
And what was the experience like shooting on location? Because I got to think a lot of the feel of the film comes through the settings and the bars. And
I have to say that when I see a film that's supposed to be set in New York City and it's shot in Toronto, and no offense to those of you that are Canadians or live in Toronto, it just never rings true to me. And there were times when people wanted to finance the film and they felt like, well, let's shoot it in Montreal. And I said, well, you know, that doesn't really seem to work with the landscape that I feel like works for this kind of film. And we kind of waited until we could shoot it there. But I think it really you know, adds a sense of verisimilitude that if you don't have it, it's very difficult to get. So I think it certainly helped me and inspired the way I move the camera and the way that I would see Jeff and Maggie's characters.
Yeah, I think also we all got up there so close to shooting, and I think the altitude had an effect on us. And, you know, there's also something about New Mexico, this has to do with independent filmmaking, like where, you know, because of the tax breaks, all these people are now on a film crew that used to do other things, and there isn't that kind of feeling of hierarchy that you definitely feel here and you feel in New York City. And it was like the people who were doing sound had been doing it for a few years and used to do something else and wanted to be treated like human beings. And that whole vibe was definitely a part of our movie. You know, just a bunch of people who liked each other making a movie together.
When you were working on the script, were you know, did you know you wanted to direct this? And in doing, and if you did that allow you to kind of like write things in a certain way because you knew you'd be the one bringing them to life?
Yeah, I always really had wanted to tell Merle Haggard's life story, who's for those of you who don't know who he is, in my opinion, the poet laureate of country music. These are guys who, yes, thank you, guys who wrote eloquently about their life experiences. And when it turned out that Merle has a lot of ex-wives, and it made it difficult to, made it very difficult to get his rights. And I'd spent some time with him, touring with him a little bit, and going to some of his shows. And when it looked like he wasn't going to be, I wasn't going to be able to untangle that mess of rights, I turned to the book and felt like, well, I could tell Merle's story, I could tell Waylon's and Christopherson's with a little bit of Billy Joe Shaver and Townes Van Zandt all mixed in, and give Jeff this character to play. What was your question?
Lefty? What about Lefty? Yeah, what about Lefty?
What about Waylon?
Oh, Lefty.
What about Waylon?
Yeah.
Billy Joe Shaver.
Yeah. Yeah, all those guys.
All of them.
Christopherson, man.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, while we're on the music, we should mention, I don't know if people noticed it because we were standing in front of the screen, you dedicate the film to Stephen Burton.
Stephen Bruton.
Bruton. Yeah. I always get that wrong. Who worked with Chris Christopherson for 30-some years and is kind of one of the unsung heroes of country music in a lot of ways.
And I'll interject that also one of T-Bone's closest friends since childhood. And T-Bone, I'll throw it over to you to talk about his influence on the film, which was, I mean, his DNA is all over this movie.
Well, you know, I would say Mr. Duvall here is the patron saint of the movie. And I would say Stephen is maybe the soul of the movie or something like that. Stephen, you know, was Bad Blake in so many ways, you know. And I think you were probably able to draw from him a lot, weren't you? I mean, Stephen Bruton is one of the best songwriters, you know, but people don't know his name, but he's one of the best songwriters of the last 30 years probably. He had brilliant guitarist. And he drove around the country in a Suburban, you know, with with Sparklets bottles, you know, and all of that stuff. He lived that life, and he wrote great songs. He wrote most of this stuff. I would say he wrote most of the music.